This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Welcome everyone to another delicious week of Orchos Chaim lhaRosh, Agut Tavach, as we learn 9 and 10 for this Sunday, Be'ezus Hashem Yisbarach, first day of Shabbos HaChodesh, as we are dedicated by Yoel Klugman and family, L'ilui Nishmas Meshulam Ben Moshe, Chav Bas Yudah Kain Klugman, and for the successful shidduchim of their children. We'll learn a refuah shalema for my Rebbetzin, Miriam Liba Bas Devora, and Chaim Ben Rachel. They should have a refuah shalema b'seg Shecha Yisrael. Number 9. Shelo yichane shem lechaverei. You should not call your friend by a nickname. Shelo yikre'enu b'chinui shekinu acherim. Or even if you don't invent a nickname, you shouldn't use a disparaging nickname that others call him with. Im lo yeh nizgar v'nichbad b'shmai. If not, that is a name that he's known by and he feels honored by it. Now the fact that the lhaRosh, in his 154 steps to a successful life, dedicates a number to this subject, it highlights how important is it not to embarrass someone with a degrading name. Now, to give you an idea of how important this is, in Masechta Sanhedrin we learn about all those that get capital punishment. For example, for desecrating the Shabbos, for homosexuality, there's the penalty of skila, of stoning. For adultery, there's the penalty of chenek, of strangulation. After it gives us the 4 different sins that carry the death penalty, then there's a parak called chelik, which talks about even more heinous crimes. The following don't have a portion in the afterlife. For example, one who denies Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection, as the Gemara explains, because if you deny it, you don't get it. Mida keneged mida. Another one is if a person habitually calls someone by a degrading nickname. A person loses their afterlife. You know, somebody thinks it's cute to call somebody fatso, or shnatola because his nose is running, or to call somebody shmegegi, or klotzo. But it's not a small thing at all. There's another Gemara that says that all people who go down to Gehenna will eventually rise and get out of Gehenna, except for 3 who will descend and not rise. That's somebody who commits adultery with another's wife, one who habitually shames people in public, and someone who calls other people habitually by a disgraceful nickname. Now we understand why the lhaRosh gives this so much attention, because it's also important. Now Rav Kahaneman, the Panavish Rav, adds, and those that follow my shiurim know I talk about this all the time, that a name is very important for a person, because a name is the conduit for a person that brings down blessing from heaven. That's why Shmai, his name, and Sinor with a Vav, the pipeline is the same gematria, or Shem and Sinor without a Vav, because it's the pipeline that brings down blessing to us from heaven. And therefore, to play around disparagingly with somebody's name is playing around with his pipeline from heaven. Not a small thing. Also, a name determines a person's fate. It says Shma Garam, a name causes one's fate. That's why Rus was called Rus, because not only because it's Bigamatria 606, because she became a Ger Tzedek, and accepted beyond the 7 Noahide laws, 606 more laws. But because she would have a descendant, David HaMelech, that would be Riveu LaKadosh Baruch Hu V'shiros V'sishpachos. Moshe is the same letters as Hashem. Hagar is Hager, the ultimate ger. Noach is the one that found Chain. Basya is the same letters as Teva because she took the Teva out of the water with Moshe. So to play around with somebody's name is very dangerous. So we have to teach our children in the schoolyard not to call their friends by a bad nickname. A boy can't catch the ball, and you say, "Oh, Shorty, why are you in the outfield?" Don't call somebody Shorty. That's a disparaging nickname. And the same thing is true with our own children. We've got to be careful. We shouldn't call, "Oh, how you doing, lazy? I'm going to call you lazy from now on, lazy bones." Or, you're a klutz, you're Mr. Klutz. You can't do that. Now, in number 10, the lhaRosh now really says one of the great rules of life. Shelo yisaper l'shayin hara. You shouldn't talk harmful talk. V'shelo yikable, and you shouldn't listen to it. Now, in America, there is a pastime, and it's called schmoozing. Americans like to schmooze. Schmoozing is a very, very, very dangerous pastime. Now, it doesn't mean people shouldn't schmooze. The Gemara says, especially women, the Gemara says 10 measures of talk were given to the world, 9 were taken by women. And it is a way to relax oneself. But one has to know the rules. As the Orchos Chaim says, the number one rule is don't talk about people. It's dangerous to talk about people. Because even when it starts out safe, "Oh, did you hear what so-and-so did?" "Yeah, but there's always an angle in that person. There always is an angle. They're out for the big 3, me, myself, and I." Be careful. Orchos Chaim used to say, big people talk about ideals, mediocre people talk about things, small people talk about people. Famous story of the Orchos Chaim. He was once traveling incognito. When he peddled his svarim, he didn't tell people who he was. He came before Shabbos to an inn, and the innkeeper said, looked him up and down, and saw he wasn't a wealthy person, and he told him that he has a room for him in the dormitory for a few kopecks. So the Orchos Chaim said, perfect, gave him the kopecks, went into a room with 20 beds in a row, and started preparing for Shabbos, humming Shabbos Nigunim. The next morning, the entire town came out to the inn. Word got out that the Orchos Chaim was at the inn. The innkeeper came out puzzled. What's going on? So they said to him, "You fortunate man, you glicklicha fellow, you have the Gadol Hadar by you." He said, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, what?" And then he thought it could only be that man. And he turned pale. He ran over to the Orchos Chaim, fell down on the floor and said, "Rebbe, if I would have known who the Rebbe was, I would have given the presidential suite. I would have given the key to the hotel." So the Orchos Chaim smiled at him and said, "Don't worry. I had a very pleasant night with the farmers in the dormitory. The whole night, all they talked about was their cows." How refreshing. And therefore we have to know that talking about people is not a small thing. It says it's the ruination of man. Cursed. People worry about getting a curse. Cursed is a person who smites his fellow behind in secret. That means talking behind somebody's back. Or cursed by God. Very, very serious business, lashon hara. Now the Orchos Chaim says not only shouldn't you talk lashon hara, but you shouldn't listen to it. You might say, "Listen, I'm sitting, I'm minding my own business. I'm just letting it flow over my ears." You're not allowed to join a chabura that speaks lashon hara. If there's a group of people talking and they're talking bad, whether it's about the rabbi, the principal, the boss, the neighbor, the neighborhood. You're not allowed to sit in such a conversation. Now, there's a Medrash, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, which is very debated whether there's such a Medrash. As a matter of fact, the Orchos Chaim himself throws a question of whether this Medrash is reliable or not. Yet it's quoted by other people. The Medrash, which is known as Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, says which is worse, listening to lashon hara or talking lashon hara. And the Medrash says it has to be listening to lashon hara, because Yosef spoke a dibara and he went down to Mitzrayim. But Yaakov listened and he was bereft of the Shechina for 22 years. Only when he heard about it does it say, Vayechi ruach Yaakov aviyah. But for 22 years he didn't have the Shechina. So Yosef was away from his family, but Yaakov was away from the Shechina. So there, the Medrash of Yehuda Nasi formulates that it's even worse to listen to lashon hara. The Orchos Chaim says that can't be, because we never find that Yaakov, the Bechir Sheba Avos, did anything wrong. It only says about Yosef, and it couldn't be that Yaakov, whose Gmus Diyukna, whose likeness is on the Kisei HaKavod, should be blamed with such a sin. So there is big controversy. But either way, accepting lashon hara, listening, is a crime with the magnitude just as much as speaking lashon hara. So therefore we have to choose our friends wisely. And if we have people, they're nice people, but they like to talk about other people, stay away from them. Also, here's another thing. When you talk about lashon hara, the other person might very well deserve it. The other person might have done something very bad. And when we talk about it, we want to just get it off our chest because we're hurt. The fact that that person did bad and that it's true does not give us license to talk about it just because we want to vent. And that's a lot of times a very big temptation. But remember what the Vilna Gaon says. The Vilna Gaon says, who merits the Oragonas, the hidden light, which Hashem hid away for the next world? Remember it says that by Orki Tovi saw the light was good by Yavdel, and he separated. Now if it was good, why did he separate it? So Rashi says he separated it so that the wicked should not have it in this world. In other words, the wicked could have the Riviera, they could have all kinds of pleasures, but not the Oragonas. That, the hidden light, that's too good for them. So the Gaon says, how is a person zoicha to the Oragonas? He says, for every moment that you could say lashon hara and you don't, you merit the Oragonas, the hidden light. You don't even have to do anything. You have to know, if you ever say to yourself, it's busting out of me, I gotta share this with somebody, I gotta tell them what I saw, and you don't say it, it's an opportunity to be zeicha to the Oragonas. And the lhaRosh tells us, if you want to have a successful life, then you need to discipline yourself, not to talk bad about people, and not to even be an innocent bystander, because it's not so innocent, and listen to bad about people. If you can't change the people, but don't participate in their discussion. If they're sitting under an umbrella table, if they're sitting by the coffee machine, and they're talking about people, run. Run like from the plague. I tell people all the time, it's crazy to smoke. It kills people. But rather put 6 cigarettes in your mouth than speak lashon hara. Because smoking only kills you in this world. Lashon hara kills you in this world and in the next world. So like I said, the ditty that I was taught when I was a little child, lashon hara lamed hey, go to Gehenna the easy way, in the merit of us not speaking lashon hara and not calling people by disparaging nicknames. May Hashem bless us with everything wonderful. Thank you all for joining us. Remember, if you would like to sponsor one of these shiurim, it's $180. 718-916-3100. We are looking for a sponsor for this week's Haggadah shir, and that is available if you would want to sponsor it. $300, $360 to be a postal sponsor. 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.